So, Oleksandr Usyk makes Daniel Dubois quit in round 9. Just want to give myself a pat on the back first. Got our prediction spot on. I predicted that Oleksandr Usyk would stop Daniel Dubois in round 9 or 10, and that is exactly what happened. I also felt like this fight unfolded pretty much as I described it would, with Daniel Dubois actually having a better chance than most people gave him credit for. But Oleksandr Usyk's technique, his skill, but most importantly his experience, probably seeing him through this fight. There was plenty of controversy, which we will get to. But in case you haven't seen the fight, Oleksandr Usyk basically made Dubois quit in the ninth round. Dubois looked like he was checking out mentally, tried to get some space, and Oleksandr Usyk just cracked him on the jaw with a stiff jab, and Dubois kind of sat out the count, came up at the count of 10. You know, we see fighters do it where they want that kind of plausible deniability of, oh, I just got counted out even though I was ready to fight. No, Daniel Dubois could have got up sooner, but he chose not to. And his mindset was definitely questioned by myself and many others in the lead up to this fight. And this is exactly why. But that being said, Daniel Dubois does deserve credit because he was in this fight. For sure, 100% he was in this fight. Both fighters, I want to say, took a round or two just to settle down. I think there was some anxiety both ways. Daniel Dubois, uh, first time in a major event where he's the headline and all eyes are on him. Of course, away from home in front of a hostile crowd, in against the best opponent that he's ever been in with, probably as an amateur and a pro. Not probably, definitely. Oleksandr Usyk, on the other hand, hasn't fought in a year. He's in against a big, massive mountain of a man, in front of his home fans, the Ukrainian fans who travel to Poland or are based in Poland. So both guys a little bit jittery, but soon settled down. Oleksandr Usyk got his jab going quite well early on, which was very accurate and very telling as it was knocking the head back of Daniel Dubois. And it looked like, okay, this might be a bit simpler than especially myself predicted, because Usyk started to routinely knock the head of Daniel Dubois back with that jab. It looked like it was only a matter of time until he started to line up more offense. I want to say as early as the second round, Dubois' eye, his left eye and his ear were visibly reddened by the impact of those punches. However, Dubois, to his credit, he stuck in there. He was very brave, despite the fact he did quit. You know, I'm not kind of ragging on him for that. He quit. That's what it was. But he had a very clear idea and methodology about how he's going to approach the fight. I initially thought that he was standing off too much. He felt like it looked like he was falling into the same trap that Anthony Joshua was, where he had the intention to go forward and close Usyk down, but it's just not that easy. And Daniel Dubois, I felt, was guilty of that. I don't think he had the kind of marauding approach that he really wanted. However, he had plenty of success, particularly with the right hand. Dubois is not a fighter who I'd associate with the word sharp, but in this fight, his right hand counter did look very sharp. At points, he had a straight right hand to the body which looked laser like. So he clearly trained and prepared very hard for this fight. And I think it was a good, brave, serviceable performance from Dubois, and he can take a lot away. That being said, of course, he lost the fight in a fashion which many people said would be likely. I think he did check out. There were rounds where he was looking out the ring and he had to be recentered by Don Charles, and it looked like he was losing it a bit there. But let's get on to the controversy, because I'm sure you've seen the headlines and you're eagerly awaiting my take and my perception of this. So in the fifth round, Daniel Dubois landed what many people deem is a low blow. However, there's a large contingent. I'm not sure if it's the minority or the majority because I haven't seen that many takes on this, many other people's takes. But there are people now claiming that Daniel Dubois should be the unified heavyweight champion of the world because he landed a valid punch on Oleksandr Usyk, which was wrongfully called a low blow by the referee. And of course, Oleksandr Usyk was given time to recover. The fight went on. Daniel Dubois lost the fight. I think these people need to chill out first and foremost. There's always controversy in boxing, and people, they never just look at it with a calm, rational head. And personally, this is based on what I saw with my own eyes, I felt that was a low blow. And the treatment that Oleksandr Usyk was given was perfectly legitimate. And I know some people are going to take issue with this. Hold your horses, hear me out, because I'm not just seeing this from the perspective of, I'm picking Oleksandr Usyk to win, and therefore I need to get my prediction right and back up anything that happens. No. I've seen the slow motion of that punch, and to me it looks quite clear that it's a low blow, because there are some people who in boxing I feel are being overly emotional, or maybe even willfully ignorant, because I don't know, they have some kind of bias maybe. But from what I saw, Oleksandr Usyk's waistband wasn't particularly high. The top of the waistband was pretty much level, maybe just a shade over his navel, his belly button. And by boxing standards, that's not really that high. And you'll often see, or the argument is that, okay, that punch was mostly on the waistband, and therefore it's a valid punch, and it should have been classed as a knockdown, and Usyk should have been counted out. However, you'll often see in the beginning of fights the referee's discretion relative to how high the waistband is. So if the waistband is way higher than the navel, he'll say that waistband is a valid target to compensate for the fact that the trunks are so high. Oleksandr Usyk's trunks weren't that high. As I say, the top of his waistband was level with his belly button. That isn't high. And if you look at the thumbnail, look at the freeze frame. The punch makes impact, and a good third of Daniel Dubois' knuckle is still under the waistband. The rest of it is on the waistband, which I've already said, is below the navel. And do you know what is below the navel of a human being? Is their bladder. And that is not a valid target. So when people are saying, it was on the waistband. Yeah, but is the waistband a valid target? Was it established that that's a valid target? I don't think so. And then you factor in that the rest of Daniel Dubois' glove, the kind of, I want to say, the pinky and the ring finger knuckle equivalent on the glove, was below the waistband itself anyway. So in my head, I'm thinking, why is there even controversy about this? This is clearly a low blow. And therefore the treatment that Oleksandr Usyk received, as I say, is legitimate. And then I think that Frank Warren was like, so if it was a low blow, why didn't the referee take a point off straight away? Since when, why are people being willfully ignorant? I mean, I get Frank Warren, because obviously he has a vested interest in fighting his fighter's case, but it doesn't work like that. Like, the referee, if he deems something to be, okay, that's blatant intentional fouling, yeah, you would take a point off, like at a bare minimum. But I think with Dubois, there was kind of like a willful recklessness where he's not deliberately targeting there, but he's like, you know what, I'm going to throw this punch. If it lands low, it lands low. I'm not going to pull it. I think that's what he was doing. And, so that leaves a bit of ambiguity from the ref's perspective as to whether that was intentional. And it was the first occurrence. I think the first, or maybe the second occurrence, but it was the first major occurrence. And so if it doesn't look like it's intentional, the referee's probably not going to take a point off straight away. So it's just like straw man arguments that people are making to kind of scrutinize the referee's decision, when in reality, looking at it with a critical eye, at least my critical eye, I don't see a problem with the call. It did look like the fight was going to go kind of belly up from there, because Usyk was shaking his head. At first it looked like, is the damage that bad where you can't carry on? But the fight resumed anyway, and Usyk, you could tell, was quite, he was a little bit ruffled by it, but I think he was irritated as well. And a couple guys in the comment section, they brought this up. It's like, Usyk's not the kind of fighter who you can just roughhouse and intimidate him a lot of the time. If you try dirty tactics, he will attempt at some point to come back and get you, and stick it on you. And that's what he tried to do with Dubois. But Dubois' presence, I felt, was enough to keep Usyk honest, where he couldn't just overwhelm him. There was a knockdown in, I can't remember which round, one of the later rounds. I think it was maybe round 8. Dubois didn't really seem hurt though. He was just really overwhelmed and took a knee. And it was like, okay, the wheels are starting to come off a bit now. But he got to his feet. Wasn't as green this time. He sat out the count. I think got up at 8 or 9. So he got as much time as he could. But then I think it was the next round the fight ended anyway. But yeah, not a vintage performance by Usyk by any means. I think we've seen the best of him, and from now on it will be a bit of a decline. Part of that, I think, is the age and the inactivity, because he hasn't fought in just over a year. But at the same time, I'm going to give credit to Daniel Dubois, because he had plenty of legal, valid success in there. Plenty of legal, accurate punches, which did, I think, hurt Oleksandr Usyk and kept him honest. But in that same vein, just because I give Dubois criticism, for quitting and the whole controversy, so, well, that's more the ref's call, but I think it was a low blow that Daniel Dubois landed. It doesn't take away from the fact that he was very brave up until the point of quitting, and did plenty of good work. Oleksandr Usyk, bit of a workmanlike performance, I want to say. However, he did show that kind of world-class intensity towards the end, which Daniel Dubois is probably lacking. So yeah, that is my initial impression on this fight. I think this fight now kind of shows you why Tyson Fury is behaving in the way he is. This is exactly what Tyson Fury wants. He wants Oleksandr Usyk to fight Daniel Dubois, fight Filip Hrgović, fight the winner of Zhilei Zhang versus Joe Joyce. He wants Usyk to go through the ring with these guys to soften him up, because it's going to be hard fights for Oleksandr Usyk from now on. Like, this fight shows that he's not invincible. You can get to him, like, without, like, low blow aside, you can still land on Usyk, and he's not a big man relative to these other guys. And sooner or later, he will lose. All of these fighters will, if they extend themselves and fight the best available competition. If you're Tyson Fury fighting the likes of Francis Ngannou, yeah, you might be able to retire undefeated, but you're not going to be cementing that legacy of being the best heavyweight of your generation or the best heavyweight ever. And so this is exactly what Tyson Fury wants. But hey, let's not give that guy any airtime. When he wants to stop disrespecting boxing and boxing fans, then maybe we will bring him back into the conversation. But yeah, commendable performance from both men. Daniel Dubois quits, but I'm not one of these guys who's going to rag on him for that. He has his limit, just like everyone else. Oleksandr Usyk, the result we predicted he'd get, the result he needed. He couldn't really afford to lose to Daniel Dubois at this point, but not great, not vintage performance, and I think it is only going to get harder from here for him. And of course, I thought it was a low blow. Good call by the referee, correct call, and the correct course of action following. So if you want to dispute that, come at me in the comments. Just be mindful, at least somewhat, regarding your argument. I don't really care much for your emotions. Please present evidence to back up your argument. And yeah, happy days. All right, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.